Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. Today is the 16th of November 2023, and without further ado, these are the stories that we'll be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin with the agreement that has been reached between Pakistan and the IMF for the release of the second tranche of the SBA that amounts to around 700 million US dollars. The Prime Minister, our caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Alturk, has also reaffirmed the commitment for the reform efforts as laid down by the IMF. The stock market, as you know as well, has surged following this announcement as well. It was already going on the increase. Now it has crossed 57,000 plus. And strengthening with every passing day, which is an extremely good omen for as far as Pakistan's economy is concerned. This is going to be our leading segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Gaza, Palestine, Israel. The death toll that has topped 11,417, including 4,407 children. The resolution that has been passed by the United Nations Security Council with the 3 abstentions and 12-0 is the number with which it has been passed, which calls for, of course, an extended humanitarian pause. It also calls for the opening of the humanitarian corridors. Let's see how this moves along, whether Israel accepts it or not. That is also a huge question, because looking at the past on how they had criticized the United Nations Secretary General and also told him to step down. Let's see whether this resolution has some kind of an effect on the current situation in Gaza. Our third story concerns the relationship between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden because of their meeting that was recently held in San Francisco on the sidelines of the APEC meeting. It's very important because of the different statements that Mr. Joe Biden took out on different social media platforms during the meeting, and said that these meetings were extremely productive. He also said that they were opening channels as far as the military to military collaboration or cooperation was concerned. So new doors are opening, new vistas are opening as far as China-US relationships are concerned, and how this will progress further, that only time will tell, but this is part of our third story as well. Then we'll be talking about France, that has issued international arrest warrants for the Syrian president, also for Assad's brother, top military officials. These warrants have been issued over chemical attacks that have apparently been done on civilians. These warrants also follow criminal investigations into attacks that happened in the year 2013. And France has also claimed worldwide jurisdiction for war crimes. Then we are going to talk about International Day for Tolerance. That has been observed all across the world, including in Pakistan. The United Nations has urged tolerance, observance of tolerance on this very day. And of course, tolerance is extremely important in any society, including ours. Tolerance for every member of our society, irrespective of caste, creed, or religion. And of course, in the whole midst of the global changes that are engulfing every single country of the world, tolerance becomes even more paramount. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the agreement between the IMF and Pakistan, and at the same time the stock market that is surging with every passing day. Is this surge temporary, long term? Can it be maintained? What are the macroeconomic policies that need to be put into place or continued post-elections with the new government as well, in order for this policy to sustain, in order for our economy to further strengthen? We've been joined by Faheem Sardar. He's a senior policy specialist, and he is here in the studios. Faheem, thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the key elements of this staff-level agreement that has been reached between the IMF and Pakistan that will pave the way for the release of the 700 million second tranche of the SBA. What are the key points that the IMF and Pakistan have agreed upon?
Well, the key points are basically to continue the reform process, to fulfill the reform process, to make sure that revenues are going to continuously increase through greater taxation and lower subsidies, to make sure that the Pakistan's electricity grid, the circular debt, and all these things are somehow managed. So if we sum it up, it is basically to keep things on track. That's why things are moving forward, because the IMF believes that we are moving ahead, still moving ahead with the reforms, which usually tend to, if you recall, in many of the programs, they sort of used to go off track. And that's why there used to be a break, and then it would start, and then it would stop and then restart.
The caretaker government seems quite, one side or focused as far as the IMF agreement is concerned.
That's true, and it's quite broad-based, the consensus of what needs to be done with the IMF, because we cannot. Pakistan is really in no position right now to sort of change its course at this moment. We have to get through with this difficult period, and once our revenues start rising domestically, and as soon as our exports start increasing, which will of course bring in foreign exchange, then we can sort of think of some new angle to take. However, right now I think everybody's on the same page that we have to continue with the IMF program as it is, and the reform process is going to continue as per the agreement with the IMF.
All right, let's talk about these reforms, especially the cost-reducing reforms in the energy sector.
Yep.
How important are they, and how important is the continuation? Because of course elections are around the horizon as well.
Yep.
So how important will these energy-related reforms be as per the IMF requirements?
Okay, now this is a tough question, because energy reforms are extremely important because they're based on import costs. Because $19 billion of our imports are just POL, petroleum, oil and lubricants. So when we talk about reducing those costs, that's dependent on the rupee rate and the consumption and the demand and the supply and what's happening internationally. So it's a really, it's like a minefield. You're going through a minefield. But having said that, Pakistan we have to very strenuously, very critically reduce unnecessary costs in the energy sector. Whatever we can save. We've got some projects which are not that effective and efficient. We are, by the way, gradually taking them out of the grid, putting more efficient projects in it, but that's a long-term thing. Right now, as you know, this IMF tranche is not a long-term thing. It's basically a very short-term thing. So when we talk about the short term, we have to focus on price. We have to focus on how much volatility there is in the oil market, right? Oil has started rising again in the international market. I mean, with what's going on in Ukraine, with what's now going on in the Middle East, you've got things expanding in the Middle East, the conflict. It's not dying down. Currently, it's expanding. So imagine what it can do to the oil price. So right now, we need to reduce our costs, and up to the point that we can generate our own oil. We at the National Security Division have given an alternative to this. There is a technology that we are working on, helping work on. But up to that point, we have to make sure that any excessive use of imported oil has to be disallowed. Only for essential items. We need to go towards a slightly more conservative way of spending oil.
All right. Speaking of conservative measures and spending, the IMF has also, talked about Pakistan's commitment to advance the planned fiscal consolidation.
Sure.
It has also talked about completing the return to a market-determined exchange rate.
Yeah.
It has also talked about pursuing state-owned, I can see the smile on your face, pursuing the state-owned enterprise and governance reforms to attract investment and support job creation.
Sure.
4 topics that are interlinked.
Of course.
How can the government move about that and create a space for positive development in the economic sector?
We'll take it in reverse. When we talk about state-owned enterprises, actually, the biggest we have to have the right diagnosis of the problem. The problem is not financial or structural that much as it is managerial and governance related.
Right.
So if we fix that, we can fix a lot of the SOEs. And that's like a 1 to 2 year process. You get good managers in, let them work. If it doesn't work, then you sell it. When we talk about consolidation of various aspects, when we talk about streamlining many of our revenue structures, because that's what we have to focus on. We've been through this perhaps 100 times, going through it one more time, but we have to sort of diversify the way we look at it.
And what do you mean by diversifying the way we look?
For example, when we talk about increasing our domestic revenues for the government, that's basically through tax. So we've got around about 2 maximum million taxpayers. And I've been hearing this ever since I can remember, that we want to increase the net and the
tax net.
And even the IMF has been talking about it. One way to do it perhaps one new way to do it is to simplify the process, is to just make auto tax returns part of the whole process, because many people are already paying tax. They're just not part of the active, logging onto the FBR system. And the FBR already has so much information from our CNICs that there can be auto filing as well. That's a slightly more revolutionary way of looking at it, but it's quite possible. We have to maintain a certain focus towards what IMF is saying, but we also have to immediately, and I cannot stress this enough, although we haven't talked about it earlier, we have to use this opportunity to galvanize our exports, especially those which do not require imports. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? You have IT exports, you have freelancers and everything, and by the way, a lot of work has been done on that to simplify their work process. However, we need to push it more aggressively, with a concerted effort from the whole offices of the government, instead of just one or two offices talking about it.
Or there's other things that the IMF has mentioned in its statement post the agreement. It talks about strengthening social assistance. It talks about stabilization policies under the bailout package. It talks about a bailout package buoyed by international partner support, signs of improved confidence. This is also something that the IMF is looking at, whether all the partners that we are working with internationally, the countries, our friendly countries, also support us or will support us in time of need in the future. Do you feel they have found that? Because I was seeing a lot of meetings that the IMF had with the ambassadors of our friendly countries as well.
Sure.
Do you feel that confidence has been reached, and that is why there is this support for the agreement and the second tranche being released?
Most likely yes, because the IMF appears to be in a more amenable mood, because it was quite negative to begin with, if we remember 1 year ago, because we're not used to this IMF. We're used to an IMF that just asks us a couple of questions, gives us a list, and then gives us a waiver on most of the constraint of the restrictions in any case. So IMF appears to be quite confident of what's happening right now. One thing which I sort of forgot to touch is a free exchange rate. There is no country on earth that has a free exchange rate. It's a managed exchange rate. It's in a band of low and high. There is no currency on earth that is left free to market forces. So when I was going through that statement, I was waiting for the band. So I couldn't really see much talk about a managed band of a high and a low. You cannot let your currency go free. You have to manage it one way or another, and that does not mean control it. It means managing it, sort of steering it in the right direction for the health of the economy. So that's something that we need to actively work towards. Using the IMF's offices to improve our domestic currency management as well as international engagement is also going to be important. Coming back to what you just said about better partners, I think we're on that. We're very
support by our partners, our friendly countries.
Yeah. So I think we're very close to that. But I mean, to be very honest, just between us, and everybody else who's watching, that the amount of money that we're talking about, this is really not that much. And there's such a lot of dust that's in the air regarding, it's just like $3 billion. Really, it's not that much. The moment we restructure, use this opportunity and restructure 3 to 4 things internally, we can generate much more internally. That's what I'm really focusing on.
What other factors do you feel that can push our economy further, and you said generate more than $3 billion in a short time, or even in a long term?
Simple. We restart the remittance loyalty program. There was some kind of a hitch in it. We restart that. Number 2, again, we refocus on exports like we had started. We focus on, and I hate to use this word, and that's not what I'm talking about, low-hanging fruits. There is no low-hanging fruit. It's always high up somewhere in the tree. But right now, there are certain exports that do not require capital investment. They do not require industries. So what you do is you focus on those right now, and you keep pushing that as best as you can. That starts to open things up. Right now, Pakistan has a problem of $6 to $12 billion. This is really not
And that much.
It's not that much, but it's just it's like a tiny thorn stuck in our throat somewhere.
The IMF talks about strengthening macroeconomic stability. We hear it so much. I've discussed macroeconomic stability with you in the past as well, and laying the conditions for balanced growth. How do you lay these conditions? I mean, it's not as if we lay the seeds down. The fact is that this is a continued process of reforms that the government undertakes. But how does a layman understand that?
Balanced growth comes when all sectors of an economy and society grow. Now that's a mouthful, to be honest, despite the short words. Balanced growth is based on a domestic, economic and social structure which is interweaved in a way where you have balanced output. Now, I'm not trying to complicate what you just said, but the point is, it's a nice thing to say. IMF likes to say these things, but every time you go, if you go to Thailand, if you go to Botswana, if you go to Gambia, they say the same thing. It's the same thing. It's supposed to be different for every country because every country has its own strengths. Gambia, for instance, has agriculture and wood as a huge strength point. Pakistan has something else. We keep looking at it from a very negative perspective. We just haven't perhaps pushed it hard enough, our negotiation capacities. But what IMF is, at the end of the day, to be fair, what IMF is saying is, I'll just loosely translate what they said, fix your structure. Fix your hemorrhage, plug your hemorrhages, fix your structure, increase your revenues, reduce your expenses, make sure that you don't waste any money, and then talk about other things.
All right, when you talk of macroeconomic stability and then macroeconomic sustainability,
sure,
how different or similar are the both of them, or are they intertwined as well?
Of course they're intertwined. Stability and sustainability could be distant cousins, but they're still related. At the end of the day, when you talk about stability, you can, I dare say, talk...
With Pakistan's case as an example.
Sure. You would be talking about short-term stability. But when we talk about sustainability, you're talking about something that's medium to long-term. Medium to long-term thing is done through policy stability, something that I've been working on at the National Security Division. Policy stability, the moment we bring in policy stability, you suddenly start to see the second word, sustainability.
But it's very important, both stability and sustainability in the macroeconomic sector for Pakistan. As you said, you've been working on that as well in the energy sector, and there are other sectors also that need that stability and the sustainability. How optimistic do you feel you are as far as Pakistan's economy, coming out of its difficult era and going towards a stability and strength in the coming months? I wouldn't say weeks or days, but let's say months.
To answer your question, I am optimistic because we are moving in the right direction, but we must ensure that we maintain our course. Internally in our office, we have identified 16 steps. If we take them immediately, that immediately turns everything around, but they're pretty harsh steps.
Okay, but do you feel those hardships are implementable?
Yes.
Okay, easily.
That's why I'm talking about it.
Okay, all right. Wonderful. I hope we get to know about those steps very soon. Thank you so very much, Faheem Sardar, Senior Policy Specialist, to have joined us, to have talked to us about the agreement between IMF and Pakistan. But before we leave, how do you see this, short answer, the stock market that is, also gaining as a result of this agreement, and has been also, there's an increase in the PSX index as well as in the last couple of days and also today. Do you see this trend continuing?
It's called Bhav Ki Tezi. That means it's the speed of price. And PTV called me in on May 2017 regarding the same historic high. I was the only one who said, be careful, the market fell 30,000 points after that. Okay. But right now it's good, the trend is good, the PE is low. But the most important thing right now is not even the PE, not even the trend, it's the companies. They are paying out strong dividends.
Okay, and that is one of the reasons why you see a strengthening as far as our stock market is concerned. Thank you, Faheem, to have joined us. Let's come to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns Israel, Palestine, and the latest developments as far as this conflict, this war is concerned. It has entered its 41st day. US President Joe Biden says it's not realistic to expect Israel to stop the Gaza war. He reiterates the claim of Hamas base at Al-Shifa hospital, but offers no proof. Also, after around 24 hours, the operation, the so-called operation by the Israeli forces at the Al-Shifa hospital has ended, but there is no proof of any tunnels that were present as per the claims underneath the hospital. Or they say, of course, that they have done cleaned the area of Hamas. But is it true or not? We've been joined by Nader Alturk, Deputy Head of Mission, Palestine Embassy, to highlight and answer the questions from, of course, his perspective. Thank you very much, Brother Nader Alturk, to have joined us. First of all, 41 days have passed since this conflict began, but doesn't show any sign of stopping. Do you feel that the United Nations Security Council's resolution that has been passed as far as these humanitarian pauses are concerned, extended humanitarian pauses, will it have any effect? Will it be implemented?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Omar. Thanks a lot for giving the opportunity to be your guest again through your audible channel. Actually, I'm optimistic for one thing, that this is maybe first step in the right way to ceasefire. Israelis until now refuse to ceasefire because they are feeling when they ceasefire, that's giving image that they lost the war against the Palestinians. So, as you mentioned, since 41 days, our people under Israelis attack using Americans' weapons, American aircraft, and Israelis tanks, most of it made using spare parts of Americans and Western countries, which means we are under two attacks. Attacked by Israelis making the action, and who is support them politically, military, is the Western countries, above of all Americans, British, and German and other Western countries. Our people since 5 weeks without food, without electricity, without medical supply, without water. Allah blessed them yesterday with raining to have fresh and clean water as a gift from Allah Himself, alhamdulillah. But the Israelis attacking right now hospitals, especially Shifa Hospital, attack yesterday. They keep it under closer. Today attack again to kick out all the patients, all the injured people, to be under their control, and damage many of the equipments, machines of the hospital, to be sure that it can't be used again to make people survive and under their crimes against humanity and war crimes. This is the situation right now in Gaza.
Brother Nader Alturk, the fact remains that a lot of pressure is mounting as well from the people in the same Western countries that are supporting Israel to stop anything that goes against the humanitarian laws or against human values. But isn't Israel going against this? But do you feel that the West will bow under, or the countries that are supporting Israel will bow under the pressure of the people? Because in many of the countries, people power is extremely important.
Actually, your question lead me to other things, brother. Democracy. What kind of democracy we have in Western countries, when yesterday the statistics show in the United States of America that 68% of American people support ceasefire in Gaza Strip. On the other hand, Mr. Biden and all the leaders of United States of America are supporting the Israelis in their war and accept and understand the Israelis needs to complete their crimes against humanity, their war crimes in Gaza, by targeting Palestinian children and women, by killed more and more of them and damaged more and more houses and buildings, hospitals, schools, universities, infrastructure. Where is the democracy? If the people in the street protesting in favor of Palestine. On the other hand, their leaders who are electing from the people are presenting the position of foreign country against the request and the needs and the vision of their own people. What kind of democracy you are speak about it, and what kind of a humanity we are going to see in the future if they are keep leading their people in this. Before 1 month, the Americans publish official statement that their people need to be careful when they are abroad out of the United States of America, because their life is going to be in danger, according to the position of Americans in supporting the Israelis apartheid system, and they're killing the civilian people in Gaza. In Palestine, actually, not only in Gaza, because in West Bank we have more than 180 shaheed right now and more than 500 injured people. So where is the democracy? How they are don't care about the security and the safety of their own people inside the United States of America and outside the United States of America. How they are going, how they are showing themselves their own people are electing them through election and democracy, when they are representing other country needs and interests against the interests and the safety of their own people. This is the question for the leaders of international Western countries. This is first. Second, as Christians, the message of Jesus alayhi salam was peace for all the humans, not only for Christians. So where
Okay, we've got a temporary pause as far as our conversation with Excellency Nader al-Mulk, who is the Deputy Head of Mission Palestine Embassy, is concerned. We are trying to reconnect. As soon as we do, we'll of course be talking to him again. Coming back to the resolution that has been passed by the United Nations Security Council, US, United Kingdom and Russia have abstained. This resolution has been passed by 12-0, calling for extended humanitarian pauses in Gaza and calls for a ceasefire are not there, but of course might be in coming resolutions. Israeli forces also launched another raid at the Al-Shifa medical complex. We were talking about that before this little lull in our conversation in Gaza City on Thursday. According to a doctor inside the hospital, Hamas has rejected claims of weapons being uncovered during hours-long raids. That also happened yesterday. Palestinian Foreign Minister has warned against Israel's misleading fabrications about the Al-Shifa hospital, where thousands of people are taking shelter. If we look at we've already talked about the casualties. More than 11,400 Palestinians have been killed to date as we speak today on the 41st day of this conflict. The United Nations Security Council's resolution is the first global agreement since the conflict began on the 7th of October. Israel has dismissed the resolution as detached from reality. The permanent observer of Palestine to the UN says the body should hold Israel accountable if it ignores it. At the same time, there are also calls for the International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice to intervene, because what is happening in Palestine is in fact war crimes. So a lot of countries are also have also written statements as far as that is concerned. The Israeli Defense Forces, or the IDF, have now withdrawn from the Shifa hospital complex in Gaza almost 24 hours after this overnight raid that it called precise and targeted operation, quote unquote, against Hamas, but no tunnels were found under the hospital as had been previously stated. Now, Hamas has denied the claim. It says it was nothing but a continuation of the lies and cheap propaganda through which Israel is trying to give justification for its crime that is aimed at destroying the health sector in Gaza. Speaking of the health sector in Gaza, most of it is destroyed as we speak. Most of the hospitals are almost non-functional or have been bombed to non-existence. The fact remains that the patients, whether they be women or children, even pregnant women, or the children who have just been born, who needed urgent care and of course intensive care, are not being given the necessary treatment, and as a result of that, more casualties have happened and will continue to happen because of the lack of such facilities that could be provided to the Palestinians, but are being denied deliberately by Israel by not only these operations such as those that are going on in Palestine as we speak, the Al-Shifa raid, for example, and other raids that have happened, or the fact that also there is the lack of access of food, water, electricity, and other supplies to Gaza. The fact also remains that many countries have sent consignments, containers of food and water and other necessary equipment, medicine, including Pakistan. But is it really reaching the people of Gaza? Is it really reaching the people who are in need of them? That remains a basic and a huge question. 7 staff members of the Jordanian field hospital in Gaza have also been injured, what Jordan alleges is an Israeli airstrike on the emergency department. I was just talking about hospital, so this is just another fact in the same manner. The fact is that despite the United Nations Security Council resolution that has been passed, we will have to wait and see as to when this pause, this humanitarian pause, actually takes place, this extended humanitarian pause. But of course, this is a step in the right direction and might lead to better consequences for the current conflict. Let's come to our third story, and that concerns the meeting between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden, of course, President of the United States of America. In San Francisco, this meeting happened. This was almost a day-long meeting that happened between the two sides, in which many important things were discussed, and we saw an outpour of different social media messages or posts that came out by Joe Biden, in which he highlighted the constructive meetings that were held between both the sides, and of course, as a result, he has talked about many things, including a restart of the military cooperation between both the sides as well. We've been joined by Dong Shu, CGTN reporter, who joins us online. Thank you very much to have joined us, Dong Shu. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Let's begin with the Chinese perspective of this very important meeting that the whole world's eyes were on. How does this recent China-US summit in San Francisco contribute to shape the global geopolitical landscape? And in your point of view, what are the broader implications of the agreements that have been reached between Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think the whole world is literally waiting for this meeting to be happening, and eventually it happened, or to see a stable relationship between China and the United States, to bring better economy, more cooperation, stable supply chains, and even a potential solution to the Ukraine crisis and the conflicts between Palestine and Israel. And as per readouts from both sides, we've known that the two have reached agreements across several key areas. This includes joint efforts to combat the illegal trade in the opioid drug fentanyl and the resumption of military-to-military communication. And the two leaders have also committed to an intergovernmental dialogue on artificial intelligence, while expanding direct flights between China and the United States. They've also pledged to boost communications in education, youth affairs, culture, and businesses. Well, among them, artificial intelligence and to cope with the climate crisis will have a bigger impact beyond the bilateral relations, beyond just China and the United States. I think the two leaders have acknowledged the importance of their relationship and the need for better coordination. For instance, coping with the climate change. Both countries have agreed to, reductions of all greenhouse gases in their international climate commitments for 2035, including carbon dioxide, methane, and hydrofluorocarbons. Well, this agreement also involves attempting to cut emissions in line with the keeping global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Well, a very crucial threshold above which, scientists say, climate change effects such as heat waves and droughts will become difficult for humans and entire ecosystems to adapt to. So I think these are just one aspect of if China and the U.S. keep the communication channels open, continue to cooperate, and that's the broader impact these bilateral relations will bring to the global stage.
Now, Dong, I'd like to also understand, how do these agreements that have been signed and agreed upon between the Chinese and the US side going to align with the broader strategic objectives of China?
First of all, I think the trajectory of China-U.S. bilateral relations right now is very clear. As President Xi has put it earlier when he met with Joe Biden face to face. He said, President Xi said that turning away from each other is not an option for China and the U.S. He stressed that there's more than enough room on earth for both nations to succeed, and that's and he said it's an unrealistic for one side to reshape the other. And President Biden, on the other hand, praised the talks. He said, and I quote, he said that's some of the most constructive and productive discussions he's ever had. He said the two sides made real progress. And also here in Beijing, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson has also praised the San Francisco meeting as the beginning of a new chapter in China-U.S. relations, calling it constructive, strategic, and predicting it would have a profound impact on future bilateral ties. I think from all these words, you can tell these are obviously the telling indicators that the bilateral relations are, well, at least going back on the right track as the both sides have expected.
All right. Also, I'd like to understand the demand to lift sanctions and change export controls was one of the important aspects of the discussions between Xi Jinping and Mr. Joe Biden. How, in your point of view, is this going to impact the economic and technological cooperation between the two countries?
Well, we've heard the decoupling the word for quite some time. Some analysts speak of a decoupling of China and the U.S., the world's two biggest economies, after decades in which they relied deeply on each other for trade. Well, indeed, for instance, the imports of Chinese goods to the United States were down 24% through September, compared with the same period of 2022. So you can see if this decoupling, so to speak, it continues, this will definitely destroy the economies, not only for China but also for the United States, and even bigger picture for the world. So that's why that says the significance of lifting all these technological or economic sanctions will benefit for both China and U.S. and even bigger picture to the whole world. And I have to say the paradoxes of the China-U.S. tech relationship or the economic relationship are not going away. The United States will still need to continually resist whether how to remain interdependent with the major international rival. But the decision will be difficult, but the debates are heated. I think one mutual desire for both countries, for China and the United States, is to create a level playing field and ongoing, meaningful, and mutually beneficial economic relations, which will do good for both, which will benefit for both, and even for the rest of the world.
All right, Dongshu, also President Xi Jinping proposed 5 pillars for the relations between the United States of America and the People's Republic of China. It covered aspects like developing the right perception, managing disagreement, advancing mutually beneficial cooperation, shouldering major responsibilities, and promote people-to-people exchange. Now, what is the significance of these 5 pillars in the context of this meeting between both leaders?
First of all, let me tell you what the 5 pillars are. I think if I remembered correctly, the 5 pillars were the President Xi mentioned is to excuse me, let me think about to jointly. First of all, to understand each other's needs, and then to jointly, make efforts for China-U.S. cooperations to continue. And also, I think you mentioned about the people-to-people exchange. I think that's quite important because for the better of the last couple of months, we've seen a lot of American officials or business leaders, or even the the flying tigers, and as we speak, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the 14 members of that orchestra are still in China. They're here to represent as the United States and the China are doing the people-to-people exchanges. I remember President Xi has repeatedly said that the foundation of China-U.S. relations lies among people, and you can say only through people getting to know each other would for a bigger picture would help the two countries to know each other better.
In your point of view, are important or crucial for sustained development and improvement in the bilateral relations between China and the US, now that this important meeting has been done with and a lot of positive outcome has come out of it?
I think the positive outcomes I've repeatedly said, first of all these agreements between the two sides, include the joint efforts to combat the fentanyls and the,
but Dr. This is not my question, isn't this? My question is, what are the key factors, or what factors do you believe will be extremely important for improvement of bilateral relations now that this phase has passed? What now needs to be done?
I think you mean for all these results, which is the most important
for the future, for a continued improvement, for a continued improvement in the relations. What needs to be done now?
I think to continue push for people-to-people exchanges, as President Xi has mentioned, China is going. Both China and the United States are agreed to boost, communications in education, youth affairs, cultural, and businesses. They are also, pledged to create more direct to boost more direct flights, and he even mentioned that for the following 5 years there will be some 50,000 international students coming to China to study and to actually learn to get to know this country. I think these sort of like people-to-people exchanges, people-to-people communications are very are down to earth and also very essential for the bilateral relations to push forward.
All right, thank you very much, Dong Shu, a reporter from CGTN, to have joined us all the way from China, and of course to highlight the importance of this meeting that was held between the US and Chinese side, which was represented by the Chinese president and the US president respectively, and the importance of that and the continuity that will be very important for further strengthening, improving the relations between the two countries, because the world's eyes were on this summit, on this meeting between both the sides, and now that the positive outcome is coming out, it shows a very improved communication not only between the two sides, but that resolve to work jointly towards resolving issues and working as in a partnership between China and the US. Thank you very much, Dong Shu, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns France has issued arrest warrants for the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who's been accused of complicity in crimes against humanity and war crimes over the chemical attacks that happened in 2013. In one of the most horrific incidents that happened, there were sarin gas attacks that saw more than 1,400 people suffocate to death near Damascus in August of 2013. The organizations that have filed a legal complaint hailed the move, saying that it was the first time that a sitting head of state had become the object or the subject of an arrest warrant in another country for war crimes and crimes against humanity. 3 other international warrants have also been issued for the arrest of Assad's brother Maher, the de facto chief of the 4th Division, Syrian Army's elite military unit, and 2 generals. The Paris court's unit concerned with crimes against humanity has been investigating these chemical attacks since 2021. Finally, let's come to today's day as celebrated by the United Nations. It's the International Day for Tolerance. How important is tolerance in this day and age when you look at all the conflicts that are happening, whether it be in Palestine, whether it be in between Russia and Ukraine, or whether it be in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir? We see a lack of tolerance. That is what is leading to all of the increase or aggression in the conflicts. This International Day of Tolerance is being observed today, ladies and gentlemen, and the importance is paramount, to say the least. The aim of the day is not only to educate people about the need for tolerance in the society, but also to help them understand the negative effects of intolerance. Intolerance begins from your own self, then from how you react to people around you, your family, your friends, your neighbors, and then it goes beyond to the society and to the nation, and then in the region and the world as well. There is a need to change, to observe what is going wrong as far as our intolerance levels are concerned. We need to become more tolerant at all the different levels, whether it be individual, personal, interpersonal, or regional and national and international. That is what will lead to a global thaw in these conflicts and a major understanding of each other's points of views. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.